My name is Walter Briggs. I'm 63 years old, and I've spent the last 38 years doing the same thing every morning, pulling on a pair of work boots, pouring black coffee into a thermos, and driving my pickup truck to whatever job site needed me that day. I'm a plumber. Have been since I was 25, not the kind with a big company and a fleet of vans, just me, my tools, and a reputation that took 2 decades to build one honest job at a time. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, in the same neighborhood where I raised my son Daniel. Daniel is 34 now. He works in finance downtown, wears pressed shirts, and married a woman named Melissa 3 years ago. I liked Melissa when I first met her. She was polished and quick-witted and made my son smile in a way I hadn't seen since he was a boy riding his bike down our street. Her family is from Charlotte. Her father is a retired attorney. Her mother sits on the board of some arts organization. Nice people, from what I could tell, careful people. The kind who notice things like whether your shoes are scuffed. I noticed early on that Melissa noticed things like that about me. It wasn't anything she ever said directly. It was quieter than that. The way she'd glance at my hands when I reached across the table, hands that stay calloused no matter how much lotion I put on them, stained faintly at the knuckle from years of pipe dope and copper fittings, the way she'd redirect conversation when I started talking about a job, the way she smiled at me, not unkind, but careful, managed. Daniel never said anything about it. I never brought it up. Some things you just carry quietly. The trouble started in September, about 8 weeks before Christmas. Daniel called me on a Tuesday evening, which was unusual. He usually called on Sundays. I was in the kitchen eating leftover chicken when my phone buzzed on the counter. "Hey, Pop," he said, "you doing anything for Christmas this year? Purchase a saint?" I told him no, nothing planned. His aunt, my sister Renee, usually came up from Raleigh, but she'd mentioned she might go to her daughter's place in Atlanta instead. "We're doing a big dinner at our house," Daniel said. "Melissa's parents are coming, her brother and his wife, some of their friends." He paused. "I wanted you to come." I told him, of course, I'd be there. Another pause, a little too long. "Melissa wanted me to talk to you about something," he said. She wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable. Her parents are pretty formal. You know how it is." I said I understood. She mentioned that maybe you could, dress up a little, not come straight from a job or anything. I hadn't planned to come straight from a job. It was Christmas, but I told him, sure, no problem. And she asked if you could. He stopped. Started again. She said her parents don't really like the smell of pipework. She said last time you came over, she could smell it on your jacket. I set my fork down. "The smell?" I said. She just... "Pop, I'm just telling you what she asked me to say. She wants me to come to Christmas dinner smelling like something other than my work. She wants everyone to be comfortable." I was quiet for a moment. Then I told him I'd think about it, and we hung up. I sat at that kitchen table for a long time after. The chicken went cold. I kept looking at my hands. The same hands that fixed the burst pipe in Daniel's first apartment at 2 in the morning when he called me in a panic. The same hands that paid for 4 years of college so he could wear those pressed shirts. The same hands that rebuilt the engine of an old Ford with my own father when I was 17 years old and learning what it meant to work for something. Melissa thought those hands smelled wrong. I didn't sleep well that night. I want to be fair to Melissa. She's not a cruel person. I believe that. But there's a particular kind of thoughtlessness that comes from people who have never had to work with their body, who have lived their whole lives in spaces where the labor that built those spaces was always invisible, always done before they arrived. They don't think of themselves as looking down. They just look past. And somehow that's almost harder to sit with than outright contempt, because at least contempt acknowledges you're there. I called my son back the next evening. I told him I appreciated him relaying the message. I told him I'd be at Christmas dinner. I told him not to worry. He sounded relieved. He shouldn't have. In the weeks that followed, I didn't say anything to anyone about what had been said to me. I went to work. I fixed a water main break on a commercial property in High Point. I repiped a bathroom for an elderly woman in Summerfield who made me a plate of biscuits and called me a lifesaver. I went to church on Sundays. I had dinner with Renee when she came up for Thanksgiving. She ended up coming after all. At Thanksgiving dinner, Renee asked me if something was wrong. I told her about the phone call, all of it, word for word. Renee put down her fork and looked at me for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" she said. "I'm going to Christmas dinner," I said. She studied my face. "Walter," she said slowly, "what are you going to do?" I smiled at her. "Eat well," I said. She shook her head, but she was almost smiling too. The week before Christmas, I did something I hadn't done in 15 years. I called in a favor. His name is Gerald Staten. We grew up 3 streets apart, played baseball together in middle school, lost touch for a while, and reconnected about 20 years ago when he hired me to replumb his restaurant after a contractor did shoddy work. Gerald has done well for himself. Very well. He owns 4 restaurants in the Greensboro area now, 2 casual spots, 1 barbecue place that gets written up in regional magazines every year, and one that I can only describe as the kind of place where the menus don't have prices on them and the lighting makes everyone look like they're being painted. That last one is called Staten's. It's on Elm Street. There's a 6-week wait for a Saturday reservation. I called Gerald on a Monday. "Walter Briggs," he said when he picked up. "Don't tell me something's wrong with my pipes again." "Pipes are fine," I said. "I need a favor." I told him what I needed. He was quiet for a beat. Then he laughed. Not a mean laugh, a warm one. "You come in any time you want," he said. "I'll have Marcus set you up, personally." "Christmas Eve," I said. 7 o'clock. "Consider it done," he said. "And Walter, I hope she learned something." I drove to a men's clothing store on Saturday and bought a sport coat. Navy blue. The young man who helped me set it fit well across the shoulders. I bought a new pair of dress shoes, too, dark brown, and a tie I wasn't sure I'd wear, but kept in the bag just in case. I took everything to the dry cleaner and asked them to press the coat. I came back in 2 days and picked it up, hung it in my closet, and looked at it for a while. Then I opened my phone and sent my son a text. "Daniel, I won't be at the dinner on Christmas Eve. I've made other plans. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I love you, son." He called within 4 minutes. "Pop, what? What do you mean? I thought you said you were coming." I changed my mind. "What happened? Is everything okay?" "Everything is fine. I just made other plans." "What other plans? You don't have other plans on Christmas Eve." "I do now." Silence. Then, "Is this about what Melissa said? About the About the clothes? I want you to enjoy your evening, Daniel. I mean that. He went quiet again. When he spoke, his voice was lower. Pop, I'm sorry. I should have told her that wasn't right. You should have, I said. But we'll talk about that another time. Merry Christmas, son. I hung up and stood in my kitchen in the quiet. Christmas Eve was cold, but dry. I wore the navy coat and the brown shoes. No tie. I decided against it. I drove downtown, parked 2 blocks from Elm Street, and walked to Statton's at 6:45. Gerald met me at the door himself. He shook my hand with both of his, the way he always does, and walked me personally to a corner table near the window. The good window, the one that looks out onto the street with the lights strung between the old buildings. There were candles on the table, white tablecloth, so crisp it looked like it had never been touched. Anything you want tonight, Gerald said. On me. Don't argue. I thanked him and settled in. The restaurant was full, the kind of full where the noise is warm, not loud, conversations layering over each other like music, glasses clinking, someone laughing nearer the bar. I ordered a glass of wine I didn't recognize, but the waiter described it in a way that sounded like it would be good. It was. I ordered the braised short rib. I sat by that window and watched the lights on Elm Street and the people walking past, bundled in coats and scarves, and felt very gradually something unknot in my chest. Halfway through dinner, Gerald came back to check on me. He pulled out the chair across from me and sat down like we were just 2 old friends, which we are. "How you doing?" he said. "Better than I expected," I said. He smiled. "You know what I remember about your daddy, he said. "Gerald's father and my father knew each other, another lifetime ago, another Greensboro. I remember he had the best handshake of any man I ever met, firm and warm at the same time. My daddy used to say that was a man who knew who he was." I looked at my glass. "My daddy built half the plumbing infrastructure in this part of the county," I said. "Never got famous for it. Never asked it to." "The best ones never do," Gerald said. He stood up after a while and went back to working the room, the way he does, stopping at every table, learning names, making everyone feel like they were the reason he opened the place. I watched him and thought about what it means to make something, to build something people can gather around. I thought about my son. Daniel called at 9:15 while I was finishing dessert, a bread pudding that I still think about. "Pop, where are you?" "Having dinner." "Where?" "Statton's." A pause. "Gerald Staton's place." "On Elm Street?" "That's the one." Another pause, longer. "Pop, Melissa wanted to come to Staton's for our anniversary last year. The wait was 2 months." "I know," I said. "Gerald's a good friend." I could hear him processing that. Then, "Are you doing okay?" "I'm doing wonderfully," I said, and I meant it. "Pop, I need to tell you something." His voice had changed, lost the careful, managed quality it sometimes had when Melissa was nearby. He sounded like he was 20 again, calling me from his dorm. "I talked to Melissa tonight. After you texted, I told her what I should have told her 2 months ago, when she first said that to me." I waited. "I told her that you are the hardest working man I have ever known. That every single thing I have, the education, the job, the house we're standing in right now, every bit of it came from those hands she was worried about. I told her that if she was ever ashamed of you, she needed to look at herself a lot more carefully than she was looking at you." I set down my fork, very quietly. "She cried," he said. "She said she was sorry. I think she meant it." I didn't say anything for a moment. "Daniel," I said finally, "you didn't need to do that tonight." "Yeah, Pop," he said. "I did. I should have done it in September." I heard something in the background on his end. Movement and then a voice, Melissa's voice, and before I could say anything, she was on the phone. "Walter," she said. Her voice was thick. "I'm so sorry. I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I've been too proud and too embarrassed to say it. What I asked Daniel to say to you was wrong. It was disrespectful. You deserve better than that from me." I looked out the window at the lights on Elm Street. "Melissa," I said, "I appreciate you saying that. I do. Would you come for Christmas? Tomorrow? It doesn't have to be formal. I don't care about any of that. I just want you there." I thought about it for a moment. "I'll be there," I said. "Tell me what to bring." She laughed, a surprised, watery laugh. "Just yourself," she said. "Just you." I drove home that night through empty streets, the downtown lights behind me, the heat in my truck warming up slowly, the way old trucks do. I thought about my father. He passed 11 years ago, but I still talk to him sometimes. Not out loud, just inside. The way you do when someone has been the fixed point of your whole life, and then the fixed point is gone, and you find yourself still orienting toward where it used to be. I thought about what he would have said if someone had told him he smelled like work. He would have smiled, probably. He had that quality, an absolute unshakable comfort with what he was. Not arrogance, something quieter than arrogance and harder to knock over. He knew that the smell of work was not something to be ashamed of. He knew that the hands that fixed things, built things, kept things running, those hands held a dignity that no dinner table setting could measure. He gave that to me, and I spent 38 years trying to live up to it. The next morning was Christmas. I woke up early, the way I always do, made my coffee, sat in the chair by the front window with the same thermos I take to job sites, and watched the neighborhood come slowly awake. A neighbor walked her dog past, waved at me through the glass. 2 houses down, somebody's grandkids were already up. I could see the light in the living room window, the shadow shapes of small figures moving fast the way children move when something wonderful is happening. I showered and got dressed. Not the navy coat this time, just good clothes, clean and pressed and mine. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror for a moment, gray at the temples, lines around my eyes, hands that no amount of dressing up will ever make look like a lawyer's hands. And I thought, good. I stopped at a bakery on the way to Daniel's, one I've been going to since it was run by the original owner's mother, a woman named Mrs. Coulter who passed some years back. Her son runs it now. I bought a rum cake because that's what my mother always brought to Christmas and what my grandmother brought before her. When I rang Daniel's doorbell, it was Melissa who answered. She looked like she hadn't slept much. Her eyes were clear but tired, and when she opened the door, she didn't say anything for a second. She just looked at me. Then she stepped forward and hugged me. A real hug, not the careful kind. The kind where you can tell a person is trying to say something they don't have words for yet. "Thank you for coming," she said into my shoulder. "Thank you for asking," I said. I walked in, and I could smell the food already. Something roasting, cinnamon somewhere, coffee freshly made. Her parents were in the living room, and her father stood when I came in and crossed the room to shake my hand. "I've heard good things about you, Walter," he said. "Not careful, not managed, genuine." Daniel came in from the kitchen with a dish towel over his shoulder, the way I used to stand when I was cooking. He looked at me for a moment across the room, and I looked at him. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. We ate well that day. We laughed. Melissa told a story about the first time Daniel tried to cook for her, something involving a smoke detector and a very optimistic attitude toward garlic. And everyone laughed, including Daniel, and I laughed too, the deep kind that starts somewhere in your middle. Her father asked me about my work, and I told him, and he listened the way someone listens when they're genuinely curious. Her mother admired the rum cake and asked for the bakery's name. After dinner, Daniel and I did the dishes together, the way we used to when he was a teenager, and it was just the two of us in the house. He washed, I dried, the same as always. "Pop," he said after a while. "Yeah, I'm sorry it took me this long." I took the dish from his hands and dried it slowly. "You're here now," I said. "That's what matters." He nodded. We stood there in the quiet of the kitchen, the sounds of conversation drifting in from the other room, the water running, the ordinary music of a family house on a holiday. I thought of something my father used to say at the end of a long day when we'd sit on the back porch, and he'd have his one beer and I'd have a root beer, and we'd watch the yard go dark. He used to say, "The work doesn't demean you. You carry it, and it carries you right back. Never let anybody make you small for knowing how to build something." I dried the last dish and set it in the cabinet. 63 years old. Calloused hands. 40 years of honest work, and a son who finally said the thing he should have said in September. A Christmas dinner that cost me nothing and gave me back something I hadn't known I was missing. Real dignity doesn't need the right shoes or the right table setting or the right zip code. It doesn't need to be approved by someone who has never had dirt under their fingernails. It was built quietly over decades, right? One job in one day, and one kept promise at a time. And it smells, if you want to know the truth, a little like pipe dope and old copper and honest work. I wouldn't change a single note of it.